Welcome everybody. I am having such a great time pre-chatting with the awesome Scott Cavalheiro. I actually thought that we should put it on tape, but we'll just start here. Welcome to the program, Scott.
Thanks, Alan. I really appreciate you having me. I was watching your show and I feel a little self-conscious because most of your guests are usually outside in their beautiful backyards, and I have this very '90s Art Deco piece of art behind me. So I'm a little embarrassed to be here right now.
Actually, no, from my perspective, I'm happy that you have that background because you're a very handsome man. So that background actually distracts a little bit from that handsomeness. So I feel more at ease. So thank you for it.
Well, you're too kind. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I'm a big fan of Good Witch. This is where I saw you first. And then I started catching up on some of your other work, and I watched some of your shorts. With the lovely Claire, the one that you did, I thought was very funny. Love in the Age of Light. I saw a couple of other ones that you did. I did pay for. I did watch, Christmas with a View. I paid for it on Prime. So hopefully, some residuals are going to make their way to you at some point.
Well, listen, I could always use a quarter, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's anything I can do. I absolutely would love to. It's awesome, and I got my wife hooked on Good Witch, and I kept on bugging her like, Scott's coming on the show. She's like, who's Scott? I said it's Adam, and she's in season 4 at that time. She's like, I don't know, I haven't met anybody. And then finally, she gets the episode that you're introduced. Excuse me, not you. The character of Adam Hawkins, and it's one quick scene, and I'm like, all right, so you met Adam? She's like, yeah, but he was in one scene. Is this, what am I looking forward to? I'm like, just wait, wait. Adam is going to be an integral part of the next, basically 3 seasons, right? Five, 6, and 7. So now she's on 6. So, she's gotten to the point. She's like, yeah, I really like Adam's character. Okay, I feel vindicated, at least.
Well, yeah, that's very sweet. It's funny you mentioned that it being an integral part of the show because when I first got on, I was only there for 2 episodes, and the writers, I mean specifically Darren, he kept talking to me and he would ask me all these questions when we weren't working, and he'd say, so like if Adam stayed around, how do you think his relationship with Kylie would go, or with Stephanie would go? And I'm like, listen, man, I'm only here for 2 episodes. I don't know why you're asking me this. It seems like I'm leaving soon, but he was testing me. He was seeing my interest, and he was seeing where he thought the story would go. And I was pleasantly surprised because there was this love triangle at the beginning with Vincent and Adam and Stephanie, and that's where I thought Adam would go off and become a preacher somewhere else. But you know you can't pick love. It just happens, right? It just innately happens. And Stephanie picked Adam, so here we are.
Yeah, and by the way, people, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the rest of the series, please click right below this video and go watch it. But be warned, we're going to talk about things that happen all the way through the end. And that happening all the way through the end is the final kind of moment that we've all been waiting for of them finally getting married. Because as much as I, love Stephanie's character, the whole jumping around and trying to figure it out and more love interests. I'm like, it's Adam, or just go do it. When are we going to finish this thing? And then finally, they got it, and in a very sweet way on the boat. It was really nice. I liked it.
Yeah, that was really sweet too. Also, another surprise when we finished season 6. Um, we didn't know how we were going to end up, and of course, we knew that Donovan and Abigail were engaged at the end of
Right.
season 6, and so coming back, obviously, we started later than usual, and we didn't do a film that year, so no one really knew what the storylines were looking like, and
Mhm.
um, we this is a little behind the scenes thing if I can share it with you about the wedding.
Please.
So we actually shot because we started filming in October of 2020, and we shot the wedding in the first block. So when we were shooting episode 1 of season 7, we actually shot the wedding, which was of course in episode 10, because we didn't want to get boned by the weather and the snow and all this. And then of course you can't get on the lake because it's frozen, being a guy close to Lake Huron. So yeah, we shot it in November, I believe, and it was blisteringly cold and raining, and it was like a treacherous day, and it was rocky, but I don't think you can tell. Like it's just so my God, the movie magic is brilliant, and the director Jonathan Wright did such a good job capturing it, and we even forgot about it. So when we got to episode 10, I was reading in the script. I was like, when are we going to shoot the wedding? And Jonathan, who was back to shoot the last block, he goes, well, we shot it like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. It's nice to do that.
Yeah. Were you freezing? Because I remember again in Chicago, and we're gonna get to the whole, Middleton being so close to me, although not really. So I remember shooting on the lakefront. I think it was December, and I was wearing 5 layers, and my fingers were literally almost frozen, even though I was wearing thick gloves. And the worst part of it is that whole emotional scene. I was throwing the ashes of my daughter who committed suicide. I
Oh, no.
was crying, real tears. I was really happy with my acting. The whole thing got cut. Like,
Oh,
are you
no.
kidding me? I froze my, what off. I cried real tears. When throwing the ashes, the wind blew at the wrong time, and I got the ashes on my face. I did this whole thing and then you cut it? Are you serious? Anyway, so were you cold?
I was okay. I was wearing a wool suit, so I was fine. But Kylie was certainly cold, and in between takes, we were huddling up, and we'd go in the boat. But I have a short story to tell you
Yeah.
about. I had a very similar scenario as you. It was January of 2016, 2015, and I was shooting January in Canada, right? This was late January too, because February is really the month where you gotta watch out.
Yeah.
So I got booked to do this Gatorade commercial,
Yeah.
and it was pre-Olympics, so they were shooting the commercials for the summer games in the winter, so then they could edit them and roll them out in preparation for the summer games. Maybe my years are off, but regardless, we were shooting, and I was a soccer player, and I was the guy where they proverbially dump the Gatorade on the person, and we're shooting in minus. This is okay. It was negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit,
Oh my God.
which is also I think it's negative 40 degrees Celsius as well
Yeah.
across the number.
Yeah.
And it was so cold that they couldn't dump warm Gatorade on me because you'd see condensation, you'd see the smoke, the heat rising from it, and I had to be in shorts, I had to be in a t-shirt, so they built me a wetsuit, cut the legs off, cut the arms off, and so they thought that was going to be fine.
Mm.
Then they're like, we're only going to do one take. So they go to do the first take, and I just do this. I anticipate the Gatorade, which of course you can't do because you don't know what's going to happen. And so the director's playing it back. I'm huddled up in blankets, and he's like, "Let's just watch. Let's just take a watch." And so I'm watching it. And I go, "Well, we need to do it again." And he
Mm.
goes, "Yeah, are you okay with it?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." So they take me out of my clothes, put me a whole dry set. We go set it all up again, and they melted the snow, by the way. We were in a soccer stadium. They melted the snow, and they had to like paint grass on the ground. And then they go to do it again, and there was like the slightest moment of a flinch, but I dropped it. It was a nice. It was it worked. They bought it, and then I go to watch the commercial. Cut it out.
Oh God.
Cut.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, it's a great story.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, moving on. There, there, yeah. Anyway, there's so many ways where we can go from here because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is again, you're in great shape, and it seems every movie that I see you in, with the slight exception of the Good Witch because it's Hallmark and they couldn't quite do it, you have your shirt off. Is that a part of every contract? They need you to have a shirt off.
Yeah, it's in my contract. I cannot do anything with a shirt on. In fact, I'm going to be taking my shirt off in the next 5 minutes. So,
Hey, feel free. I will not be doing that, but you you go right ahead.
yeah, it's funny. I guess when I started out, there was a very small window of actors in Toronto that were also. I mean, I was in the fitness world for a while. I was a spin instructor and I was a personal trainer for a while before I focused on acting. And so there was a small window of people who were, I don't know, I guess my build, my body type, my ethnicity, my physique. So I ended up getting a bunch of roles, I guess, where I was sort of the meat sack on the screen, the shirtless guy. And I mean, I was very fortunate to parlay it into some decent roles, and I guess I think the last time I was shirtless was actually uh,
Well,
Christmas with a
Christmas
View.
Eve, you were shirtless, so that was 2017, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2017. Yeah, or
Hold on.
2018.
The timing is interesting. So 2017 is when you got married. So is it Claire saying, "Okay, now that we're married, no more shirtless scenes"?
Yep, she now has to comb through all my contracts and my rider.
Makes
So
sense.
instead of doing shirtless scenes, now I get only red Skittles.
That's hey, you have to have your writers. Yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to getting to that point where I can actually put mine in. But yes, it's great. Um, well, I was waiting, kind of on the Good Witch. I was waiting. I'm like, okay, they're showing Adam in all these kind of tight shirts. At what point will they actually have him wear something short sleeve? It finally came, so it happened. But yes, that's as far as they went.
Did it? Um, did that happen? Oh yeah, it was in season 6
Yep.
in the clinic
Hmm.
in the hospital. Yeah, there was a big debate over that.
Seriously.
Yeah, and I actually got in trouble because I remember I was doing wardrobe, and I proverbially Hallmark likes to keep things quite neutral, which I respect. And I remember at the time it was in the winter because we shoot through the winter, and I like to put on weight in the winter, different exercise regimes and all that. And I guess I was particularly bulky, and I remember in wardrobe, and I said, I don't think Darren's gonna like this, the showrunner. And she goes, "Oh, why is that?" I was like, "Well, showing some arm off, and I don't want to emasculate him. Darren's also very physically fit. If you ever get to see him, he's great shape. Very jealous." And so she goes, "Oh, okay, I didn't know about that." And then she sent it out, and we wore sleeves. And then we get on the day, and Darren goes, "Where's the short sleeves?" And she goes, "Well, Scott said that you didn't want it." And I go, "Okay, that's my fault. I thought this would make people feel uncomfortable. I thought we would be going against the Hallmark Code of Conduct." And then, anyways, it ended up happening. But yeah.
Hey, they did it for James. James got to show off his guns. Why not Scott, right?
You know what? He's in great shape.
Yeah.
He's in such good shape, and he's so competitive. And him and I were always trading workout regimes and texting each other after work. And I was nervous around him at times because he's so handsome, of course.
He is a very handsome man. James did not have an opportunity to jump on. He's busy shooting. But James, whenever you're done, please come on down so we can talk about it. And we can maybe put a side by side and compare the handsome factor between you and Scott. We
Wow.
are not going to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah,
not.
you're gonna make me look bad.
No, no. But that scene, and I want to come back to one thing that probably made there was a lot of debate about in the second, but the scene in which Adam and Sam go up for the rebound. Obviously, Sam falls. From an acting perspective, I saw that they did a cut, so it was not kind of a wide. It was he didn't fall from that kind of high of a distance. But what did I mean? It was still a fall, and you can see it. So did they say, hey, we may want to use a double and then just kind of cut the face in later, or James said, no, no, this is mine. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you have something like that, they always bring a double in, and Jamie's very quick to do everything himself, and whether it be playing basketball or doing the stunt or doing the magic in season 7.
It was very impressive, by the way.
And he does it all himself because he's like, no, no, no. What do you mean? I'm a fit guy. I'm skilled. I can learn. I'm diligent. All this. So
Mhm.
there was a double on the day. They were there, but he never used it.
Very cool. Well, even more respect to James. Going back to some of the potential kind of controversies, if we can call them that. I'm in Chicago. I'm in the suburbs of Chicago.
Right.
So as soon, first episode of season 7, and excuse me, season 7, season 1, and I came to Good Witch. I started watching from season 1 onwards, and then I went back and I watched all of the films. So I did not kind of start from the very beginning that a lot of people did, but um, immediately we see kind of Cassie welcoming Sam. Sam is from New York.
Right.
The realtor says, yeah, all these New Yorkers want to come in and they like this life. I immediately presume that it's somewhere outside of New York. And then you find out that Milton is outside of Chicago. You're like, that I'm not sure about that because I'm not aware of any places like that. But okay, let's suspend disbelief. Then I start watching kind of the movies going back. There is the map on Jake's wall where it shows in a particular county that's not far from here. And then they're saying, well, it's actually 2 to 3 hours to downtown Chicago, which makes no sense. And then I even froze frame when Kylie's. I was telling you this pre-chat when Kylie's real husband was on, and they were showing the two cars when they came in to kind of grab stuff from the cabin. I froze frame and I looked at the license plates just to see if I can catch somebody in the act of where the license plates are. Those license plates have nothing to do with any state. It was just completely made up stuff. They really went pretty far out to try to confuse people. any inside information there?
I think when you have, when you start out to write a show or create a show, and you don't want to be too specific of where it is, and then you tie yourself down to the geographical footprint and also the accents, and because as you know, in the States there's a lot of different dialects or accents, if you will. So I think when they, and I can't speak for the beginning, I can only speak for my time there, but when Darren became the showrunner, as opposed to the previous, you have the liberty to sort of be a little bit more malleable of where you want to live. I think the directive was, we know it's rural, we know it's sort of upper middle America. We know it's kind of near the border, but we don't want to tie ourselves down to like
Yeah.
specific place. And you're right, you caught us. So in season 6, we head over to Chicago. We have some deep dish pizza and all that, of course, which Illuminati's.
Yep, Lou Malnati's is one of our famous ones.
That's right.
I'm more partial to Giordano's for anyone that's in Chicago. I am sure I'll have some comments right below. Feel free, Denver. But yes, yeah, Chicago has really good pizza.
Oh, incredible. But to your point, I mean, it's always a debate. It's
Yeah,
always a debate. I mean, Catherine Bell, CB has, she has her thoughts on it, and Jamie has his thoughts, and Catherine Disher, and of course the showrunners. And ultimately, we turn to the showrunner and we're like, where do you want Middleton to be? And he
yeah,
just says, you know what he said? He's like, I just want it to be familiar.
it certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think when you get that note or that direction, you kind of just say, we all know a place like this, or, we all want to be in a place like this type thing. And I think he hit it.
Yeah. No, and it's great. It's like Virgin River, right? Virgin River, these places, you really feel like you know it, you want to go there. It doesn't exist. So, and then you realize that all of the wonderful places that we all love are in Canada, which is even more of a reason to go to Canada because I love Vancouver absolutely. Are you so I know you're Toronto, but I know that you did a bunch of stuff in Vancouver. So where are you kind of in Canada?
I'm actually in the next room over from you. And if you could just let me in the house, that would be appreciative.
Fine.
No, I'm right now I'm in Toronto. My
Mhm.
my wife and I we live part-time in Los Angeles. We we go back and forth. We haven't so much obviously in the last 2 years or 18, 19 months, but we actually just as of today, we just bought like a cottagey place up north here, so even further north.
Mhm.
So that's really exciting. And then we're actually planning in next year to get ourselves back down to the States on a more permanent basis.
Very cool. So
If,
you
if we
bought
can, you never know, right? Depending on how things work out with work and all that stuff.
right. So you bought Stephanie's cabin. That's basically it.
We bought Stephanie's cabin, and I'm not going to tell you where it is
No.
because it may or may not be outside of Chicago.
Yes. Well, there are plenty of lakes, so it's plausible. We'll go with that. Um, Speaking of Stephanie, or the character of Stephanie, Kylie, who plays her, Kylie is awesome. I was watching, I'm so used to Stephanie, and I like Stephanie as a character a lot. But watching Kylie talk and just being Kylie, no offense to Stephanie, Kylie is so much more interesting and so much cooler and so much sharper and wittier and just I was blown away by how awesome Kylie is. Kylie, if you're watching, I know I invited you to come to the show. Please come on down because after watching those interviews, I'm even more interested in talking to you. So is my dog, apparently, who's barking now. But uh, I wanted to ask you about working with Kylie because I had no idea, obviously, just watching kind of the show, I didn't know who the person is. She's a riot. She must have been an incredible fun to work with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I'm sure you know, she comes from a very strong comedy background,
Mhm.
and the level of comedy you get to do on a show like Good Witch is there, but Kylie can go so much further. She's so smart, she's so fast, and in any moment which doesn't happen often because the show is so well crafted, but sometimes if someone's like, hey, can you throw in an alt line or throw in an ad lib, Kylie's always the first to do it, and it's always the best. It always makes the cut. Yeah, I truthfully I love working with Kylie, and she actually texted me 2 days ago, and she
Huh.
said, when can you come over for wine? And I just said, anytime. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell her about this. I'm gonna tell her to come sit on the show with you and chat,
Hmm.
and catch up with her. But yes, to answer your question, I love working with Kylie, and in fact, I wrote a movie recently, and there's just a part in there where there's no one else who could play it but her. So, Kylie, if you're watching, you got the part.
Could be. Yeah. Very cool. No, it's I honestly I was really 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 impressed. Just watching her being her. It was very very cool. And it kind of it gets into the next question, right? So the character that you played in Christmas with a View, the chef. We don't have enough time to go into the whole chef. Oh, now you're gonna help in the kitchen to some of the scenes in Goodwitch. But the character itself was similar to Adam in a lot of ways. So I know, again, based on some of the things that I've seen you talk about, you actually got, after auditioning for Goodwitch many times before. The producers finally kind of saw you in Christmas with a View and offered you the role, which is amazing. But from a character perspective, did they say, hey, we kind of like what you did there and we want Adam to be more in that vein, or that conversation didn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it didn't happen to my knowledge, like at least not in front of me. But what did happen was Christmas with a View was a bit of a turning point for me in my career into this genre, into the genre of family and more lighthearted content. Because before that, I was playing a lot of bad guys, and I remember my first major role that I did is it was one of the best experiences I've ever had on set was on this show called What Would Sal Do, and I played the incarnation of the devil, which is the antithesis to what Adam is and what Shane is in Christmas with a View. And so by doing Christmas with a View, it opened me up to doing these more, and I use this word loosely, and I don't use it as a pejorative. This is like truthfully the word is more wholesome, nice guys, as opposed to being the jerks or whatever. So yeah, it wasn't a direct conversation that we had, but they did mention it. I remember the producer John Eskinez came to my wardrobe fitting the first day, and he's like, "Hey, we loved, we know that you've auditioned for a while. We loved your reel, and we saw the Christmas movie, Christmas with the View, and so we're really happy you're here." So that was like the extent of the conversation.
That's very cool. But yeah, you do Nice Guys really, really, really well. And what I enjoy, just from a pure acting perspective, is the ease with which Adam comes across. And that ease is hard to do. It's not an easy thing to master, of just being soft and being gentle and being there and not having to go big. It's really exquisitely done. So good on you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny when you're in and as as an actor yourself, when you're in an acting class, everyone they always give you stuff from Goodwill Hunting or Rounders or Fisher King, all these like great dramas to audition for or to work on in the class, but no one ever realizes that that's about 1% of all the jobs out there available.
Yeah.
And they always kind of neglect the stuff that is more casual every day. It's not like a bomb's about to go off and in any Hallmark show or anything on you know Lifetime or whatever. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I think it's certainly fun to play that character. And if we ever came back or if we ever had another movie, I don't know if there's a place for Adam, who knows, but it'd always be fun to come back.
Well, there should be. And how is that spin-off idea going? Did you talk to Darren? I know you left a voicemail. Is that Stephanie and Adam in Paris? How's that going?
I do keep in touch with Darren, and his response, he had a good laugh.
Okay,
He
good.
had a good laugh, and he said, "Listen, if Hallmark wants to talk, let's talk." That's all he said.
All right, fine. from the people perspective, right? I think people are so shell shocked, and I mean this in a very respectful way, that Good Witch has been canceled, right? After season 7, you're done. There are no films, nothing, and to the point where when I posted on a Facebook group, a couple of Facebook groups that are Good Witch Facebook groups, hey, Scott is coming on. What questions do you have for Scott? 99% of the responses were this: hashtag save Good Witch. People are speechless. They can't even say anything else other than they need to continue working on the campaign to save the show. And that's what they've been focusing on day and night. And everybody wanted me to let you know to do everything you can to save the Good Witch. So whatever you can, please, take care of it.
Well, that's really sweet, and there's such an incredible fan base for this show and the network on the whole. But you know, a show that can run for 14 seasons and X amount of movies and have people there every week growing up with the show.
Mhm.
Like when Bailey was on the show, she grew up there.
Very
So
much.
you don't really find too many shows. I mean, maybe Modern Family, but like, what an incredible experience and what an incredible fan base, and it's so generational. I know I'm like, I have aunts. My personal aunts are who are in their 60s and 70s who love the show, and then my my wife's I guess my niece-in-law, I don't know how you say it. My niece-in-law, they watch the show as well. They love it. It's just like it's so generational, and if I could say anything to the fans, it's just like an utter wholehearted thank you. I mean, I don't know what the future is. I can't. I'm not a soothsayer. I wish I were, because then I would probably pick the lottery numbers, um, the right ones. But yeah, I mean, listen, the fans are incredible, and you as well, Alan. You're incredible, and I really appreciate that. And just it's a wholehearted thank you.
We appreciate it because, again, to get into more of a hard space instead of just joking around with you, but the Signed, Sealed, Delivered is another one of my favorite series. I actually want to ask you about one of the guys there in a second, but Signed, Sealed, Delivered, and Good Witch for me was my transition outside of the craziness of the world into a heart warm, loving space that is safe. And that's why I love Hallmark so much for what they do, because it allowed me to get out of the constant stress and distress that's out there, with COVID, with what's happening, outside, into okay, I'm starting to feel back to what I feel like, which is, goofy, very sentimental, just nice pace. It's
Right.
a complete, thanks to Hallmark. And then Good Witch, I keep going back to things that Cassie says, to things that kind of Adam and Sam would say. I keep coming back to them, so they became kind of a part of ingrained programming of who I am as a person. I was in a wireless place trying to get a new SIM card. There are people in front. It's about to stop. The hours are coming up. People are being difficult, and I'm feeling the stress coming up. And then the voice in my head is one of Cassie's sayings, and then I start to calm down and I start to relax, and I get into the how can I be of help to the situation as opposed to how can I be a hindrance. So this show, just to me, but to the entire audience, is just a huge uh, deal and what it does to us.
Well, I'm really touched to hear you say that, and I'm glad that that's the way that it's received. And I will also say that, especially during the pandemic and when we shot season 7, it was that feeling that you're describing is something we had every day because, we're at home, we're all isolated, we're so fearful of the world. We're not sure what's going to happen. Everything was very uncertain. But what was certain was we got to come to work every day, and we got to see each other, and we got to have a laugh, and it was so good for our mental health, at least for myself, to go to work and leave home and to feel that sense of life that kind of was sucked out of our worlds for a little bit. And so season 7 in particular is just so it's so wrought with emotion for all of us.
Yeah.
And we were all surprised that it ended too. I genuinely know that we thought there would be another season, because as we were shooting it, the ending that happened was not the ending that we were shooting, because they had to change it in the edit, and we expected to come back and do some more stuff and what have you. But albeit that, we it was so important for us to be there, and I'm so glad that yourself and all the other fans really enjoyed it. So that makes me happy.
Yeah. No, it's we can have just a show on its own talking about the effects that Good Witch has had on people. Myself, my wife keeps talking about every time. She's a very intuitive person, but trusting her intuition just went through the roof ever since she started watching Good Witch, and how she identifies with what Cass is saying. So it's really special. Um, Leaving on a more of a funnier note, I wanted to bring up a couple things. I know you need to run. By the way, come back so we can chat for a lot more often, because a lot more.
Anytime.
Yeah, I have a lot more questions for you. But I heard you say in the interview that when you and Claire were getting married, you've done DJing before, but one of your friends who's an actor who's also a DJ DJ'd your wedding. So immediately I went to Zach Santiago, who is a great guy, a wonderful, world renowned DJ, who is in Canada. So it was not Zach who DJ'd, or was it Zach?
It was not Zach. No, it was very famous comedian, actually, very talented guy, super funny, very, very nice, named Russell Peters.
Okay. I know that name. Okay. Very cool.
So I grew up watching Russell Peters comedy. He's a little bit older than myself, and I always thought this guy was just ridiculously hilarious and very, very proud Canadian. And then I had the opportunity to work with him in South Africa on a show, and we became friends, and we hung out, and we actually would DJ. So we would work during the day, and then at night he'd say, "Hey," he'd call me up, and he's got this kind of funny cadence to his talk. He's like, "Hey, Scotty, tonight we're DJing at this old tavern downtown. Do you want to open for me?" And so I would come, and I didn't have my music or my
Yeah.
equipment, but he did. He had everything. And he had all this like high end stuff. So I'd come and I'd DJ, I'd open for him, and then he'd play. And we did that a bunch of times. And so we developed this sort of bond through music, and of course through the show. And then yeah, he was the one that came to our wedding, and in fact, he offered. I just said, "Do you want to come to the wedding?" And he's like, "Do you have a DJ?" And we said, "No, we have a band." And he's like, "Well, let me play between the
Yeah.
set." And
Very.
my wife and I were like, "What? We can't afford you. Like he's if you want him to come DJ at your party, he's very expensive." And he just said, "No, it's my treat. I would love to." So that was very, very touching.
Very cool. And speaking of your wife, the thing that really touched me when I heard you talk about it is a certain phrase that you used. You said that because of Claire, there's I'm going to paraphrase, but there's 100% correlation to the man you are today is because of her. That's the same phrase that I use to describe my wife and the man that I am. Because of my wife in my life, I would have been a different man. And I am incredibly grateful that this woman has been putting up with me for 22 years now. But that really kind of touched me when I heard you say the same thing that I feel so genuinely for my wife, for Claire. That's very, very
Yeah, well, I'm glad you feel that way, and it just, it's a blessing, right? I would have to look at you and I'd say, Alan, we gotta settle in for winter because we're gonna talk all night about our wives and how great they are and how impactful they've been on our lives. We could go for hours, weeks even. So
Anytime.
yeah, I love that you say that, and I agree wholeheartedly. I wouldn't be where I am today without her, and I wouldn't be who I am. So
Very cool.
super
Well,
grateful.
Scott, thank you so much for coming on. You're a ton of fun and a joy to talk to, and I really hope that we do it again.
I would love to. You give me a call.
Sounds good. We'll do.
Thanks.
And go
You know, I
ahead.
was gonna say, and I appreciate you having me. It's been a lot of fun, and I love what you do. I love the show, and I can't wait to see Kylie's episode.
Listen, Kylie, I hope you're still watching. Scott, I already extended my invitation. I know I've been bugging your PR team, so hopefully you'll be able to make it.
Wow, amazing. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Let's Dive In. See you later. Take care.